Hello everyone, MOMOTV is back! Okay. And after a long months, nakapag-upload na rin tayo sa wakas dito sa channel ko. And for today's video, we will talk about my newly built budget entry gaming PC that I can use for work, content creation, and of course, gaming. So pwede na kayo makalaro ng Dota 2, Overwatch, Valorant, at marami pang ibang laro with a low to medium graphic settings. Take note, there is no GPU on this build. And only for around 30,000 pesos, pwede na kayo magkaroon ng ganitong PC build. By the way, this is a collaboration also with Kuya Makol, so later on, we'll be showing you a time-lapse build that he did for this PC. So, let's start talking about the parts of this budget gaming PC. First, the CPU that we use here is the Ryzen 5 5600G. Quick details of this processor, it has 6 cores and it's a part of the Ryzen 5 lineup using Zen 3 architecture with socket AM4. It was launched around April 2021. Thanks to AMD simultaneous multi-threading, the core count is effectively doubled to 12 threads. Ryzen 5 5600G has 16 megabits of L3 cache and operates at 3.9 GHz by default, but can boost up to 4.4 GHz depending on the workload. So right now, ang price nito is around nasa 9,000 to 11,000 depende na nasa shop na pagbibilan nyo, and if kung 3 type ang kukunin nyo or yung may kasamang RAID stealth cooler. So mine, I bought my CPU or Ryzen 5 5600G for 10,000. So for those who are on a tight budget, you can get this CPU or APU with a cooler para hindi na kayo bumili ng aftermarket cooler. But for me, I chose to buy a cooler and I'll explain later why. So next is the motherboard. So I used the Asus Stuff A520M Plus because tingnan nyo na lang, ang ganda. And I only got it for around 4,500 pesos. You can also get the B450 for the same price or the B550 which starts at around 5,000 pesos. The only feature that a B450 and a B550 have over an A520 is CPU overclocking or yung mga number of ports available. So if you don't plan on overclocking your CPU, an A520 motherboard would be fine. Next is the RAM. So I use the Tforce Delta Y 2x8 3200 MHz. This memory hits the fastest DDR4 speed supported by AMD's Ryzen 5 5600G CPU without overclocking. You can go for a single stick 8GB, or kung gusto nyo makatipid pa, mag 2x8 2666 MHz na RAM na lang kayo. Pero I advise if ever you will build the PC with a 5600G CPU is mag dual channel na kayo and at least 16 gigs of RAM na 32 MHz kasi yun talaga ang recommended kapag 5600G ang i-build mo. 16 gig also is the sweet spot for gaming. Got mine for around 4,000 pesos. So next is the power supply. I used the FSP HV Pro 650 watts 80 plus bronze PSU. So sa mga first timer builders dyan, PSU or the power supply is the most important part na kailangan hindi nyo tipirin. I recommend going for the branded one like this one, FSP, Seasonic, Silverstone, at marami pang iba. So I got mine for 2,750 pesos. For the storage, I got this 500 gig Western Digital SSD. So dito ko ilalagay or dito natin ni-install yung operating system. So we also had a 500 gig HDD Seagate kung saan doon ko ilalagay yung other documents and also the games that I will play. So bakit hindi ako nag M.2 SSD? Because mas makakamura ka sa gantong SSD. Pero you can still get an M.2 SSD if may budget pa kayo. Go settle for 250 or 500 gig kasi medyo bitin talaga pag 250. Then in the future, add na lang kayo ng SSD or HDD pag nakaluwag-luwag na kayo. Depende talaga kung gaano kalaki ang kailangan ninyo. So I got my SSD for around 2,700 and for the hard disk for around 1,000. Alright, next is the AIO. So I used the YGT Chilly White 240mm AIO, which I got for around 2,800 pesos, and the in-play ice tower kit and the 120mm fans for around 800 pesos. The YGT Chilly White 240mm liquid cooling is the best way to cool a CPU because water transfer heat much more efficiently than air. The in-play ice tower kit and fans has bright LED and other dazzling effect. It lights the chassis, passion, lower noise speed control system, has remote to control the lighting effects of the fans. Yung nga lang, hindi siya addressable and not compatible sa motherboard na gamit ko. It's really up to you if you want to settle for the stock cooler or if you want to buy an aftermarket cooler like this one, an AIO, or just a regular or any other air cooler available. Lastly, for the chassis that I use or for the case, I use the YGT B708 white tempered glass, which I got for around 1,300 pesos. Again, YGT is one of the companies that can give you a budget-friendly price for a case. This case has a mesh front and tempered glass side panel and a dust filter on top. Super ganda ang airflow nitong case na to dahil may mesh front siya. So, ayun na nga yung mga parts and components ng PC ko. Now, proceed na tayo sa time-lapse build ni Kuya Makol and some gaming benchmarks.
One down.
As you say. I'm under attack! Gunpowder.
Your top tower is under attack.
Shrapnel! Shoot him up! I'm not ready. Mm-hmm.
I gave up immortality?
Direct hits at any
So that is it, guys. Again, if you're looking for a budget gaming PC this year, 2022 up until 2023, go for the Ryzen 5 5600G kung nagtitipid talaga kayo. And kung hindi naman kayo ganun ka-arte sa mga specs. Pwede nyo pag-ipunan yung GPU after ilang months if you really want to experience a high resolution graphics and a smooth gameplay. And also if you're really into video editing, streaming, and rendering. Pero kung games lang naman ang hanap nyo tulad ng Dota 2, CSGO, Overwatch, Valorant, you can just settle with just this APU. But I would suggest just to use the low to medium graphics only. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, also subscribe to Kuya Makol's PC Works or Kuya Makol's YouTube channel. I'll put the links on the description box below. That is it for now. Thank you so much. See you in the next video. Bye bye.